Yeah, and Nate Oates is a great coach, and he admitted, like, it wasn't the best situation for him. He battled, blah 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 blah. I love the way Nate Oates has kind of transformed Alabama a little bit. They've become a really fun team to watch throughout the season. And JD is the guy. If I had to have a summer league crush ranking list, he's number one for me. Like, not even close. Just because of the offensive feel stuff. On a team where he hasn't played with any of these guys before, and he comes out, he's like throwing lobs to. Whether it was Williams or it was Kevin Gelly, or like his feel for the game was way higher than I expected. And I think on both ends, like he was a really great, shot blocker considering his size.
You led all point guards in blocks with 1.5 a game.
And he led the whole summer league in assists with 8.2 a game. And now I know, like, Josh Giddey was right behind him, and Giddey didn't play nearly as much. So, but like, still, we can flex a little bit about that. Like, that's still a stat that still happened.
It's real. I saw it. You saw it. It actually happened. Yeah.
Shot over 40% from three. Like, he has, again, a really excellent speed. Again, can change the pace of the game a little bit. Like, that's the one thing that drives me crazy about Boston sometimes, and why I really enjoyed the Derek White edition. And I think Pritchard does this really well, is pushing the pace after their team makes a basket. It seems like JD can be, pretty good at that, and giving Boston maybe a little more advantageous situations instead of trying to set up against a half-court defense all the time. But like this, I just was really, I mean, you can't miss him with the hair, obviously. He's just flying all over the place.
Well, I was sad he didn't have the fro.
I know, but he still had something that was still like, it wasn't like it was something small. It was still a lot of volume, just a little different, but I to get that at 53, to get a guy that was like, oh, this guy might be a rotate. Like, you're hoping for that. Like, when they drafted Peyton Pritchard, when they drafted Grant Williams or Rob Williams, you're like, what? Let's hope this guy can fill out a spot for himself, like on the bench somewhere. You're hoping, like, when you get out of the lottery, you're hoping for, a 3-and-D guy rotation player. Sometimes you end up with a Jimmy Butler. We all know that guys like Draymond Green and Nikola, Jokic, those are the most extreme outliers humanly possible. Like, Nikola Jokic, considering NBA history, is probably the best draft pick ever of all time, But if you find a guy who's a rotation player potentially down the road, which I think JD is, at number 53, like, that's such a huge home run. Like I said, kind of jokingly to some of my friends, and this is the height machine already in my head, but I'm like, the C's picked Dennis Smith Jr. at 53, like when Dennis Smith Jr. went, top 8, I think, in that draft.
Pre-injury Dennis Smith Jr.
Right, exactly. So
he fell off a little bit, but yeah, I hear you.
A little bit. But like that, to get that kind of value late when nobody expects you to amount to anything, or like, because those are like draft and stash guys too. Like, you draft him, like Zuan was what, 50. Was he in the 40s or 50s when he was?
I think it was either mid to late 40s.
Okay, like, so that's the type of guy you get normally at that spot. But to get a real guy who looks like, again, he looks like a real guy so far. We'll see how it goes, and I don't know if he'll get any time on the big league roster, but it'll definitely make a lot of highlights down in Maine for sure. Like, I can't believe they got him there, and to watch how seamlessly his game kind of works itself into the NBA game. Like, this is such a home run for Braddock. Like, Brad just keeps winning.
He doesn't know how to miss. It's literally insane. I mean, and it's important for a couple reasons, right? They're going to be a very expensive roster for the foreseeable future, right? Okay. So making sure you're finding value and hitting on picks in the draft where you can find some low-cost controlled players is very, very important for, the back end and the depth of the roster, right? When you're thinking of guys like Yuhan and JD who are picked in the 40s and 50s, it's basically all upside, right? If they hit, it's a home run. If they don't, like, your franchise isn't ruined because you missed on the 53rd pick of the draft.
Yeah, it's not like Ben Simmons or Markelle Fultz, like, first overall.
Right. Like, it's a situation where their roster is built in all the important areas where now they have the luxury of, trying to find these diamonds in the rough and develop them and take their time with them. Because if someone like JD hits, well, that's going to help you with, opening up potential flexibility for deals with guys already on your roster, or maybe as guys age and you want to limit minutes, things like that. So we'll see. I mean, again, it's summer. We're all drunk off the Kool-Aid. I'm with it.
Yeah, right.
But it's an interesting angle to look at how Brad has built the roster and say, okay, we have these two projects that are actually shown to be real players, and they're not going to cost a lot of money. And for a team that is spending and will be in the tax, I would rather them give, Yuhan a minimum deal than overspend on like a mid-level wing who is going to like, command more of a role and have, like Gallo at his stage of the career, I think is accepting what his role is, right? But if we're projecting towards the future, you don't want to ruin what is already established, right? So if you can add to that with young guys who are, just going to be happy to be in the NBA, but have legitimate skill, I think that's how, a really deep championship caliber roster can be built.
If you're Pritchard and you're looking around you, they bring in Malcolm Brogdon, and now they have Davison. Like, it's a little warm in here if you're paying Pritchard. It's like, geez.
Honestly, and it's like, and I felt, he was coming off that summer league, like I said, average 50 points a game. And then he's coming into the year. He was, a do not play coach's decision for the first, 2 or 3 months of the year. And you could just tell that weighed on him. Then he actually starts getting minutes. And it's like, oh, shit, I forgot. This dude was a 40% three-point shooter that can really help. So I don't know how they're going to – I feel for the guy. Like, he didn't do anything to warrant not seeing the floor. But it was clear, like, if you have the opportunity to add Brogdon for, Aaron Nesmith and a ham sandwich, you have to do it. Like he didn't exactly have – he didn't really give up anything of substance.
Right.
Then I'm just thinking, I think the way that they can structure it is because he's such a good shooter, you can play him more off ball and just, deal with him being an undersized 2 in certain lineups.
Right.
But then obviously, like, who knows how many games Brogdon's going to play? Who knows? I just think you have to keep him on the roster for that. But I fear he's going to go back into that role that we saw him have from like October to January where he just didn't play. And that just sucks because his shooting is real and it helps create space that is very valuable for the best players on your team.
Right.
He's got to hate his life. I think if he was to give in truth serum, he'd be like, all right, well, fuck this. Let me get out of it. Let me get a situation where I can play.
Right.
But I don't think they're going to trade him. I think if they do trade him, it would be for like a player of substance, in a package. Like they're not going to trade Pritchard for a third string backup center is right. Kind of what I'm getting at. They'd rather just roll the dice with him as a depth piece. And then if Brogdon or Smart or White get hurt, you have a proven guard, to get those minutes.
Yeah. And it's just and I love Pritchard. I'm rooting for him. As a short white guy watching those.
Yeah, I mean, as a fellow white guy, he was, every time I would see him play, it's like, oh, so when I was a kid and I would fantasize about being a Celtic, right. That's what I look like.
That's it right there. He's living our dream right now. So we're all on the band. It's just, to have, White there, Brogdon come in, and then have Davison sit behind it. It's just like, geez, am I going to ever have, but that's life in the NBA, brother. That's what it's going to be. And it's just, I feel for him a little bit. And, just given what we saw from Davison, if I were him, I'd be like, God, can just give me some time to get like real minutes and real rhythm. But that's life in the NBA.